Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Jesse here at Bayboy Views. So, I wanted to come at you guys with another video. I said I was going to talk about the Family Leadership Summit 2023. Tucker Carlson is the man interviewing the 6 presidential candidates, people that are already saying that they're going to be running in the 2024 elections. So, these people are Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Ron Desantis. Alright? Some of these people you probably never heard of. Don't feel bad. I didn't hear of almost 3 of these people. But nevertheless, they are going to be running, and this is the beginning. Let's get started. If you could, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. And first one was Tim Scott. So Tim Scott comes into the stage. First thing he says is, thank God that we live in a country where we can all be Christians, or founded on Christian beliefs. I was like, okay, he's the preacher type. When he came out like that, it almost gave a facade. I don't know the guy, but it sounded like he was talking to a certain number of people, and it's no secret that the donors in the Republican Party are Christian, Judeo-religious types. So I said, that's the first thing I heard. So I was like, all right, well, let's see where he goes with this, right? So Tucker Carlson goes on there and he says, are you for the war in Ukraine? And if so, what? So he says, no, hell no, I'm not. I'm anti-war. Get us out of there. Okay. And then, so Tucker Carlson says, okay, so what do you think about Joe Biden sending over missiles to Ukraine while we're openly saying that we're running out of ammunition? He goes, if I was president, none of that would ever happen. He did the Donald Trump on this. So he goes on, Tucker Carlson goes on and says, the reason why I'm asking you this question is because we are sending all of these weapons and all of these and billions of dollars to Ukraine, and for what? We have cities that are being ran out by homeless people. We got a drug epidemic. We got immigration problem. And we got cartels pushing drugs in and out of the state. So Tucker Carlson leads with that. And he's and then Tim Scott rebuttals and was like, yeah, I'm anti-Russia, anti-China, anti-Iran. All right, these 3 are evil. Okay, they want to see the destruction of the United States. This is the axis of evil. And he wants to up defenses, and he wants to stay where we're at, basically. So basically, he wants tensions in China, he wants tensions in Ukraine, and I don't know what about Iran. But, and he would also say that he would take $10 billion out of the COVID relief fund and put it towards the wall. So, very Republican view. Where I see it. So he also goes on to say that he blames homelessness on mental health and fentanyl. So fair enough. We can say that mental health because of fentanyl, or because of they're struggling, losing everything they got. Okay. So he goes on and says over 50% of gun deaths in the United States are suicide. I didn't know that number. I learned something today. So he's a very anti-woke president. He goes on and says that that the radical left are out here trying to destroy us and tear us apart, you know, one Christian household at a time. Goes back to being preachy. And I don't know, he gave the vibe of, I am the vessel to come and straighten out America. And Republican Party, use me as you wish. I don't know. It wasn't giving. So obviously this is the type of person, in my eyes, that would listen to the donors instead of listening to the American people. Alright? And in the Republican Party, just listening to that interview alone, not even this, but listening to this entire 8 hours of when Tucker Carlson comes onto the stage and he starts saying the things that we're not allowed to say because it goes against the party. You can tell, and I'm so happy that they put Tucker Carlson on here, because this man will get the truth out of you and he will put it in blatantly in everybody's face. So, donors, if you're not listening to all the Republicans sitting in these seats buying these tickets and telling you that, you know, we don't want war with Ukraine, obviously people got money invested and I can see the controversy, but how would I say it? When they scream and they're not allowed to scream, they start breaking shit. But he goes on and says he's very anti-bank, or at least that's how I saw it. So that means that he's not against, he's trying to go up against the banking industry, which is the World Economic Forum type shit. And cool, I'm happy that is the view that he stood on that, and going up against what we got in the CBDCs and ISO 220. If you guys don't know, we're going to be switching over to CBDC soon, but hopefully it doesn't pan out. I'm actually on the side of no CBDCs. I'd rather keep everything paper, but that's just me, right? Republican donors. Sorry, you guys, technical difficulties. So basically, this guy is very anti-China, very anti-Mexico, anti-Canada. No. So going on with the whole banking industry, so he does not want to give bailouts to the banks anymore. He's saying that they are irresponsible, that they need to suffer the consequences, and they need to pay back a loan regardless if you pay for it. So basically, if you take out a loan, you gotta pay it back. And I guess that means a lot, especially coming from somebody that their family lost everything in 2008. So he goes on and says that the banks need to suffer and not the American people. So, you know, Tim Scott, everybody. So going on to Asa Hutchinson. This was probably the most comedic interview out of all of them. Mike Pence's was funny. I'm sure everybody saw that, but this one was super funny. So this guy's pro-transition medications and everything for your 13-year-olds. So that threw me off. I was like, all right, bro, I don't even want to listen to you. So he took his boost. He took his shots. So basically, Tucker Carlson didn't like him from the beginning. He already had a Tucker Carlson live interview with him, and they got into it over the cameras, and now they're face to face. So I'm sure that, you know, very defensive about each other, especially with the questions that he asked them. So he's pro-transition, pro-COVID, anti-COVID, whatever. So the pro-transition, he's saying that he would approve that 13-year-olds can change their gender. He said, fair enough, as long as they have parents' consent. He was like, all right, cool. Then he goes back and says, but I don't think we should do that, and if I saw a bill to deny it, I would sign it right away. I was like, all right, cool. So now he's wishy-washy about it. And then he goes to the audience and says, who here has kids? And yeah, he lost me. He lost me. So anyways, he's pro-COVID too. So Tucker Carlson asked him, how many COVID shots have you taken? And then he calls back, how many COVID shots have you taken? And then Tucker Carlson says 0. And everybody starts laughing. It's hilarious. Picture boat, perfect moment. So Tucker Carlson goes on to talk about the COVID shots and the misinformation and how it hurt people, and there is zero combos about it. Like, what's going on, bro? So basically he tries to brush that under the rug. Tucker Carlson, he's a G. He's gonna make you look dumb if you don't answer questions. So I'm happy that he got it. He got to ask this guy these tough questions, because honestly the way he was acting was not a way that we should see our president act, especially during an interview, and especially against somebody that he dislikes. So he's going to be sitting in front of a lot of different leaders of the world, and to be having this type of attitude towards somebody that literally just interviews him. Yeah. Anyways. So he was the head of the DEA. Alright. He hates the cartels. Is pro-Ukraine. Okay. So he would rather have our military out and about instead of being in the US. And I guess that's all that interview gave. It wasn't a very good interview. It was hilarious, but yeah, definitely taking his career off, and we're just gonna forget about that guy. Mike Pence's interview was pretty it was decent. I'd give him that. All right. So obviously, January 26th, they talked about that. Mike Pence is actually saying, I don't fuck with Trump because he almost got my family hurt. Fair enough. And then they start talking about the upping or getting away from e-box. So electrical ballots. So making everything paper again. I can see why, especially with the whole commotion that happened in 2020 with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. To this day, they're still saying that Trump should have won. I feel it, bro. But take a L for a L. So he's pro-Ukraine. And so Tucker Carlson goes and says, all right, well, aren't you a super religious figure and super big in all of these churches? Yeah, of course I am. Oh, so did you know that the Ukraine government was arresting priests out there? was like, no, I already asked. I've actually been to Ukraine twice, and I actually asked the head of the church out there that, no, they're not doing that. No. So that sounded ass backwards from the start, right? So basically, they left that let's agree to disagree. So I was like, all right, well, let's continue on with the interview. It's actually getting pretty interesting. I didn't know much about Mike Pence, besides him being the vice president of the Trump, and that he was super, super religious, super, super right-wing. This interview kind of brought him to the light of, him being a super religious figure, and probably behind a lot of the donors, in my eyes. So I'm sure that all of you guys saw the snippet of Mike Pence and how he handled the question about how the United States has been doing horrible for the past 3 years. So the biggest points that he actually brings out, so that all of you guys can understand the question and feel where this question is coming from. Every city in the United States is worse within the last 3 years. So as we all know, the last 3 years was the COVID stuff. The economy has tanked. And he even admits that the recession has already hit a couple of states. Mike Pence. All right. Filth, crime, and the suicide rate have all skyrocketed. So, this is everybody here's home, So I would like everybody to reflect on it and not think about what's going on in the other parts of the world. And, he's supposed to be representing the American people and not represent us going out and fighting wars. That's not who we are at first, we all have issues here that we want to fix, and like Tucker Carlson says, why are we sending billions to Ukraine when we have our own problems over here? And his response, that it doesn't matter to him. He is going to be the president of the United States. That's what he's here for. That's it. And yeah, I didn't like him. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. So the next people we have up is Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley actually did a pretty great interview. She was ready. All right, I'll give her that. She was ready. She had on point answers to all of Tucker Carlson's questions. Tucker Carlson is a very controversial person that gives out very controversial questions, and he's not afraid to fold the envelope, make you sweat a little bit. So let's see. So basically, she starts off with it. So Tucker Carlson asks her, "What do you think about Joe Biden having almost 2 times the amount of people in New York worth of votes voting for him? He didn't even campaign, nothing. The whole fraud of election thing." She's like, I don't know, but it kind of speaks on, the party itself, doesn't it? And she pretty much says that, we can't really afford that no more. So let's not talk about that. Let's talk about now. Let's talk about me. And all I know is I'm an anti-Kamala Harris. We don't want her. So I was like, all right, cool. Now you got my attention. I was happy about that. Okay. So basically, she's respecting the 2020 thing. She's not here for Trump. Trump, nobody cares, bro. You lost. Take it. So she's a mental health activist. So I was happy about that. I was like, all right. So she's saying that we need to have a therapist on call 24/7. Yeah, good luck with that. But I'm glad that she brings it up at least. So another thing that she goes on and talks about, and I'm actually happy that she's talking about it because, you know, it's having transparency between the insurance companies, the hospitals, and the pharmaceutical companies, right? Having everything on the table, and instead of giving incentives on selling things, they have to have not incentives, but they go off of your record. So how long has this person been coming to you, and what is the turnaround rate of them getting better, basically? So I thought that this was super great idea, you know. Never really thought about it that way, honestly. So she brought that to the light for me. I was super happy about that. I'm super happy that, you know, she's bringing it out in the open to make it more of a, and obviously her donors are not about it, you know. You know, these are the type of people that, you know, don't make us think about doing anything that we don't want to do. So anyways, so I was super happy that she brought that up, and she's going against the whole Republican thing about that, or at least the donor thing about that. To hold doctors accountable and on outcomes of patients. So I think that that's great, honestly. I understand that, you know, these people go to school for a long time. They have a big bill to pay themselves and all that. But you know what? We didn't choose this life. You chose it. And honestly, that speaks numbers on the whole. That speaks number on the whole education system itself. But I was super happy that Nikki Haley brought that up. So she wants to be energy independent. I'm all about it. Cool. We don't have to rely on Saudi Arabia. She's basically gonna say, yeah, how about fuck them? Why don't we just become an energy independent country and you know, stop buying this cheap Venezuelan mud oil? I was like, all right, cool. At least she's got a plan. And she's saying that the whole Paris Accord thing, there's people out here that just ain't respecting it. And honestly, I live in California, so I think that we're doing a great job about emissions, a great job about carbon, you know, the environment, water. You know, obviously what's been going on in the country, like the Ohio oil spill, the oil spill in Texas, the New Mexico Peninsula thing. You know, we got our faults, but everything here is super regulated off that stuff. And, you know, I think that the United States is doing 10 trillion miles way better than some of the biggest countries with the most people, and literally don't give a fuck. So she calls them out straight up. She says, China ain't doing shit about it. They said, oh, we'll fix it in 10 years. India is the same motherfucking way. Yeah, bro. How are we gonna hold ourselves accountable for these motherfuckers and, you know, expect everything to change? And, you know, so I was all about that. I was like, cool. You know, I'm happy about it. So in her head, electric cars isn't gonna fix these fucking problems. I'm saying, yeah, it's probably motherfucking not. It's not. If we got two big ass places with more people than every single continent, come on, bro. They don't care. They are polluting and they're not gonna stop. They got an agenda to rush. We ain't gotta be behind them. So Tucker Carlson also goes on and starts talking about, what do you think about the homelessness in America? What do you think about everything that's going on in America right now? Fair enough question. He just went and told every single other person. So she goes on and says that she is pro-America. She wants our boys back on American ground. I said, cool. I like that. Hates that Republicans and Democrats passed a $4 trillion stimulus bill for COVID, obviously. She says that we are the problem, basically. That the government put everybody on some type of welfare and setting up this $4 trillion deficit now. And they just ended up lining up their own pockets. So, no. It's good to have that shit on paper, huh? At least. So the next one. So that was a really great interview. I like Nikki Haley. I think that she, if she stands a little bit more firm and has a bigger voice, I think that she'd do great. All right. So the next one up is Vivek Ramaswamy. All right. I like this guy. I think for being a very young individual running in a Republican race, intellectually he's there. Experience, none whatsoever. He comes from the business world. One thing that stood out to me that I didn't really like about him is the regulations he wants to put in front of voters. I don't like it for the simple fact that putting boundaries on something as important as voting rights, where does it end if this is where it starts? I understand that we already have a whole bunch of other stuff, but yeah. So so basically the same thing. He'd bring our troops back home, get us out of the Ukraine thing. I like that he's a businessman, that he thinks about having some type of plan in order for us to move on from situations instead of fanning the flames like a lot of these other people, and continues on with the narrative of us being the reflection of the rest of the world, at least. So I applaud him on that. Very naive, I believe so, but where there's hope, there's faith. No reason to send USA to Ukraine and keep them at the border. So he would bring all the guys over. He'd put boots on the ground at the borders, especially the one in Mexico, and fight this cartels. So he brings up an interesting issue. He says that just like Iraq and Iran, that if we don't learn from our past mistakes and the wars that we got into, that we're just going to be repeating them, and there would just be worse outcomes. And since this is Russia, I believe him. Obviously, the donors don't like that shit. So he's not speaking to the donors. He's speaking to everybody else. So he's a anti-Russia, anti-China alliance guy. He wants to stop poking the bear at Russia. He wants to tell them, hey, tell you what, let's set up these terms. You step away from these locations and we'll step away from Ukraine. NATO will not join Ukraine, and NATO, or Ukraine cannot join NATO, and yeah. So he's very anti-censorship. Good. So if you don't know, for his views and the way he thinks and what he is expressing to the rest of the country, this is the era of technology, you guys. There is no stopping this guy. So he goes on and says that Microsoft owns LinkedIn, shut down his profile and sent him an email about this is causing violence, this is against our codes, all that extra shit. Within a couple hours, he got his stuff back on the air, released everything that they did. They do not want this man on the board. Okay, he is a threat, and for good reason. I think that he actually voices out the younger generations, the people that are coming up, the people that the donors should probably fear. And I'm happy that he's on the board and he's running hard. He is taking up all these interviews, and I hope that this man is ready to step up to Trump and to Ron DeSantis, who is going to come up next, actually. So he's very pro-American. Oh, actually, he's saying that we are not having a left issue, we're not having a right issue, we're not having a trans issue, we're not having all that. We're having an issue of what it is to be an American. And I think that has never resonated with me more until he said it out of his mouth. And it almost shattered some type of glass in front of me. And it allowed me to step out of my situation. It allowed me to look at the broader picture, because yes, there are left states, yes, there are right states, yes, there are all this bullshit, right? But in reality, we're all pretty close and not as divided as we think we are. And I think that it's all because of what everybody's telling us. Everybody in the news media is telling us, all the radical left, all the Nazi right, and he puts it out pretty plainly, and he says what we're fighting are pro-American people that baseball watching, cherry pie eating, everyday Americans, people that are here and are not leaving, and they're going to fight for this country. And he goes on and starts talking about that's what happened on July 26th. And I'm not justifying what happened that day. I'm not gonna say any of that stuff, but what he said resonated so hard. If you don't allow people to speak, that's when they scream. When you don't allow people to scream, that's when they start fucking shit up. And that's crazy. So he kind of turns the table on the whole Republican. So this is a Republican donor, damn near an interview, right? And Tucker Carlson is just the person in the room, and then there's a camera and they're watching you type thing. That's what it felt like, at least. So he's saying it's not what it means to be Republican, but what does it mean to be an American? Like, goddamn, you ain't gotta kill. This is a great interview, by the way. Like, Tucker Carlson and them probably talk on the regular, so it seemed very fluid. I think that he's just probably been practicing his interview skills with so many people that honestly just probably don't like him. He's been on so many podcasts for the past couple years, this man is ready. So look out, you guys. So obviously he's an American, but he's also of a different ethnic group, you know. So basically he's very anti-woke. He doesn't like that everybody tries to put people into a race bubble, and you know, and if you don't know, watch a couple of his interviews, watch a couple of his debates that he has. You know, this man is not scared to speak about he's not scared to speak about radical things and things that everyday American people should think about, and not what is being pitched to you on TV screens. And I was so thankful for that. All right. So last one up is Ron DeSantis. So Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida. You know, I personally didn't want to know about him, and I thought he was just going to go away. But after this interview, I think he's going to be a pretty good candidate, and I think that he's very well on his way to being that candidate that's going up against Trump. So he's a pro-lifer. I don't like categorizing people, but that's how he said it. He's a pro-lifer. Anti-Gavin Newsom, so thank God. So this guy is literally the polar opposite of Gavin Newsom. So if you guys don't know by now, I really don't like Gavin Newsom. And it was really, really fun to have this guy come out here and just dog shit on him. They dog shit on each other all the time, all right? Go watch one of Gavin Newsom's more recent interviews and go to the part where he talks about Gavin Newsom or Ron DeSantis. They shit on each other. They literally hate each other. It's hilarious. I love it. And honestly, that was the reason why he got deterred from me, was because I thought these was theatrics. But I really think they hate each other. And just on principle, honestly, I think. But he's very anti-CBDC. So if you don't know what CBDCs are, I recommend you guys going and checking out ISO 220. So CBDCs is something that's being rolled out by the WEF, the World Economic Forum. You know, all those people that want us to eat bugs, all those people that is telling us that we're bad people to be driving our cars while they drive, while they fly on private jets that release more atmospheric carbon and NOx than any of the cows. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into it, but very anti-woke, and I respect that. All right, very anti-CBDC. I have CBDCs myself. I just bought XRP, Ripple, Quant, HBAR, and Casper. All right, so if you guys want to check those out, this is not financial advice. I'm just letting you guys know CBDCs. But this is, and if you guys don't know what that is central bank digital currencies. Okay, so this is digital currency. This is not paper money. This is not, this is all on an electronic device. And the thing that I don't like about it personally is that the banks or the government can shut down everything that you're doing. You can't get that extra thing of gas. You can't buy extra food. You can't travel away from your house a certain amount of miles. You can't, it gives you so much possibilities of restrictions. And when they start restricting the money, that's why I'm kind of, I'm not about it. So I'm happy that he's running. I'm happy that he's bringing all this stuff to the light. I'm so glad that he put that whole thing that Florida does not recognize CBDCs. He's doing great things out there in Florida, and compared to what's going on out here in California with Gavin Newsom and them trying to transition kids, and Yeah. Anyways, so he's ex-military. All right. Very anti-cartel. Very anti-Ukraine. I'm happy about that. Anti-China and CCP. Cool. Thank you. We need that. I think that our biggest threat to you, and I'm just saying this just because of the shit that I'm watching. All right. You guys can tell me in the comments what you guys think, but China is slowly creeping up to number one, and what they're doing is they're lining themselves up because they play the long game. This is a big ass game of mental chess right now. They got tensions with us in Taiwan. They have strongholds in our governments in Canada, and if you don't believe me, go look at Trudeau and him trying to be more like fucking China and start a freaking... All right, we got Chinese people in Mexico, literally at Tijuana. They got Chinese food you can buy now. They got Chinese strip malls, strippers everywhere. All right, they're everywhere. And I think that they are probably our biggest threat because they're kind of after our necks. And they're going to try to get it whatever way they can. And that's just me personally. No. I'm going to leave it at that. So he would increase border funding and, anti-cartel. So, you know, China is giving the stuff that they're making for fentanyl to Mexico, to the cartels. So anti-state or anti-safe state. So he would try to get rid of the sanctuary states for immigrants. So Tucker Carlson asks him a question. He's like, why is Mexico less of a threat than Russia? And he goes on and says that, well, honestly, he kind of disingenuously says that, you know, Russia's weaker than... not our biggest threat anymore. We've been depleting their whole ammunition. They ain't got nothing on us, you know. Who we really should be working about is China and Mexico. I was like, all right. And so basically Tucker Carlson, and you know, obviously he wants to get a good answer out of him, but you know, realistically, the possibilities of this happening is probably pretty low. But he's just like, why don't you just put tariffs on Mexico, and in order for them to put regulation into them to stop making fentanyl, to arrest these people, blah blah blah, and that way they can stop pushing that shit into the United States and causing all this homelessness and blah blah blah. You know, I respect that. I think that was a great way of going around that question. And I think that, you know, Ron DeSantis would be a pretty good candidate. Honestly, I'm looking at those two, Vivek Ramaswamy and Ron DeSantis. I'm pretty sure that they're going to make it to the end. Hopefully, both of them don't die out. I'm happy. The other people, I'll just keep pushing. We'll see what happens. All right. Hopefully everybody got some good information out of this. I went ahead and watched the 8 hours, or at least just the interviews, and then go ahead and shared it to you guys. But I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.